Well, good evening. Just give a few moments just to get things out there. But good evening, good morning, depends on where you are. Good morning to my California friends. Well, I'm excited just to be starting a series. I thought I would put together some of my thoughts on leadership. And so I'm just going to give a brief introduction to an overall series. I'm going to jump on here every 2 or 3 evenings here in the UK, and 10 or 15 minutes I'm going to talk about leadership. And I've called this series Presence-Centered Leadership. I know my American friends will tell me I've spelt centered wrong. I couldn't work out which way to do it, but no, maybe I spelled it right for the Americans in the end, but hey, there you go. Presence-centered leadership. I want to introduce you to the series tonight, and also introduce you to the this particular module. So I'm just going to chat a little bit about that. You can see some verses. I put 4 key verses up here. And of course, this wouldn't be complete without a quadrant, would it? So a quadrant behind me. So by way of introduction to the series, why am I calling it Presence-Centered Leadership? I've been really struck in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and of course, the last 15 or 20 years, of course, in reality, of the importance of the presence of God. And I love what Roland Baker says: let's not make the presence of God the 4th person of the Trinity. No, it's the presence. We'll be having a look at that a little bit, I know, through the series. So the series is Presence-Centered Leadership. You can see these 4 verses. I put them up. They've blown me away in the last few days. Sue in particular brought to my attention this beautiful translation, the Passion Translation of the Lord's Prayer. May the glory of your name be the center on which our lives turn. If there was ever a verse that gives us a mandate for presence-centered leadership, I'm sure it's that one. And I'm not talking about leadership in the church. I'm talking about us as leaders on earth, whoever we are, whatever we do, wherever we go, whether we're leading ourselves or we're leading a nation, we are leaders. We are leading other people. So we're leaders. So there, may the glory of your name be the center on which our lives turn. I'm going to look at this from a number of angles, but for me, that sense of the center is that there are other aspects to how we live life and how we lead. But the center is the presence, Jesus, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Trinity. And then I've for a long time talked about how Moses was the one guy. He was the one guy in the out there in the wilderness. And, he was, I've often said, he was prepared. He was the one guy in the wilderness who could go up the mountain and be given the description of how to build the tabernacle. And then I've just read this verse. The Lord made me understand. It's a stunning verse. The Lord made me understand in writing by his hand upon me all the details of this pattern. And here we're talking about the temple. And, this is what we all need. Presence-centered leadership will give us access to the Lord writing on us, not with pen and paper. They didn't have that back then. Moses, when he went up the mountain, didn't have anything to record the description of the tabernacle, but he had a grid and God wrote on him. And here we have exactly the same in 1 Chronicles 28:19. The Lord made me understand in writing by his hand upon me all the details of this pattern. We need that as leaders. We need the Lord to write on us the pattern, the plans of life. And of course, a verse that is well known, but I love this verse from Exodus 33:15, where Moses says to God, if thy presence does not go with us, do not lead us up from here. We're just not going. We're just be taking a walk, and we're not doing that. We need you. We need your presence. So we need the presence to be the center. We need the presence to be able to give us the pattern, to give us the plans. We need the presence to go with us. Otherwise, it's pointless going. And then this verse that really has struck me recently, which is David suddenly saying, let's get the ark of God back to us, for we did not seek it in the days of Saul. And for me, the ark represents the presence of God, the whole totality of the ark, the box. And of course was put in the Holy of Holies. It represents the presence of God, but it contained in it three things. And for me, they stand for the power, Aaron's rod, the provision, the jar of manna, and the tablets, the principles of heaven. And that's what we need. We need this. So presence-centered leadership has, as it were, in modern day terms, the ark, the presence, the power, the provision, and the principles. And the first quadrant of this series is up there with Moses, David, the disciples, and us. And for Moses, I've got to have your presence. I'm not leading without your presence. For David, I need the ark back. We didn't seek it in the days of Saul, but you can almost hear him somehow inside saying, look, I'm the king, and I can't be king without the ark, without the presence, the provision, the power, and the principles. And of course, the disciples, they had Jesus right at the center of everything. They had presence-centered leadership. But here's the good news. So do we. We have the Holy Spirit, and we have the opportunity for presence-centered leadership. So that's what this series is all about. It's about making sure that in everything we talk about, whether it's structure, organization, strategy, change, relationships, the gift of administration, our character, it's saying at the center of every subject on leadership must be the presence of God. So that's the series. And then this first module is the journey of leadership. And it is a journey. There's no question about that. And I recently was reading a passage, a chapter, which I love very, very much. And Genesis chapter 12, it's a passage that God gave to me when Sue and I in 1999 were considering the drastic move to America. God gave me that chapter. And, the first verse says, leave the land of your fathers. And then very recently, I read it in the Passion Translation, and I'm that crazy guy that reads the footnotes. And the translation is go find yourself. And that's really what I want to say to you. Let's go and find ourselves. Let's go and find the leader in us on this journey, this wonderful journey. And we're going to look at that. We're going to break it down. You can see there on the screen the 10 sessions of this first module. And a couple of them won't be a surprise to some of those that know me well, especially the first one, he wastes nothing. But I can't do anything without that being at the front. Or it's my version of Romans 8:28. He wastes nothing. He gets you ready. So we're going to look at this extraordinary experience of the journey of leadership. And it's really Genesis 12:1. Go find yourself. It wasn't so much where we were leaving, it's where we're going to. And it's about jumping on and going on a journey of leadership. And I'm going to point some things out to you. I'm going to help you to see some things that are already there. They're in your journey. They're hidden there for you to discover. Proverbs 20 verse 5, the plans of a man are like deep wells, and a man of wisdom draws them out. You are the man or woman of wisdom to draw out, as it were, the nuggets, the truths, even the sense of calling or assignment or purpose. It's in you to be pulled out. So we're going to go on this journey of leadership as the first module A, the journey of leadership in this series, presence-centered leadership. And so I just want to invite you, jump on board. Join me. I'm going to do it every 2 or 3 nights. It'll probably vary a little bit, but I'll post it. It'll go straight to YouTube. It'll be on Facebook, my public page. And if you're on the other page, it'll be on there. And I'll put it on Instagram, on IGTV too. So it will be there. And it's going to form really a little mini course. With quite a few little modules. Obviously, there's loads that we could all talk about on each of these, but I just want to give you about 10, 12 minutes on each of these every 2 or 3 evenings, and you'll be able to go back and recap and catch up. So if you like the idea of this, share it, jump onto your social media and share it with your friends and with your family. I believe that one of the greatest needs on earth today is godly men and women leaders who are statesmen and stateswomen on the earth for such a time as this. And as I said, this isn't about church leadership. This is about leading in every area, every sphere of life, but putting the presence right in the center of leadership. Presence-centered leadership. I don't know whether that phrase has been used anywhere else, whether there's a website that uses it. I don't know. But all I know is this: we've got to have him. And these 4 verses, let me just remind you of: may the glory of your name be the center on which our lives turn. Maybe we could say this: may the glory of your name be the center on which our leadership turns. Or that verse, the Lord made me understand. I believe some of you need to believe this tonight. The Lord made me understand in writing by his hand upon me all the details of this pattern. Some of you need plans, you need patterns, you need strategies, and you need to believe that God can write it on you. He doesn't need pen and paper. He can write it on you. I love that. What a beautiful picture. And that sense of maybe all of us crying out to God and saying, if you don't go with us, I'm not going. I'm not going on this leadership journey without you. But don't worry, he'll come with us. And let's call for the ark back. Let's get the ark back. Let's cry out for the ark of the presence of God, the ark of the testimony, the ark of the covenant. It has so many of these beautiful names. And the ark, of course, if you study it, it was present in war. It was present in sickness, but it was also present in healing and blessing and breakthrough. The ark of the presence, which represents for me the presence of God, the power of God, the provision of God, and the principles of God. And leaders need those. Leaders who are statesmen and women on the earth for such a time as this, we need the presence of God, the power of God, the provision of God, and the principles of God to enable us to be the leaders that this earth needs for such a time of this. So Father, I pray your blessing on everyone who jumps on this or watches it on whatever medium they watch it. I pray that you will help me to teach something that will stir up and raise up and equip and empower and motivate godly men and women leaders for such a time as this. Father, would you release a hunger to make you the center on which our lives turn? Would you give us a hunger and a faith to believe that you can write patterns and ideas on our hearts? You don't need pens and paper or recordings. Would you give us the same hunger, desire that Moses had? I'm not going without you. And would you release in all of us a cry? Let's get the ark back. The power, the presence, the provision, and the principles of God himself. So bless you. If you've enjoyed this, if you think this is something you want to be a part of, jump on, tune in, keep an eye on my social media, and I'll be doing it every 2 or 3 days. Just to remind you, the series is Presence-Centered Leadership. The module, The Journey of Leadership. And the first session in the next couple of days will be He Wastes Nothing. He Gets You Ready. Let's cry out. Let's get the ark back in our lives, in our leadership, in our organization, in our spheres of influence. And let's be the godly statesmen and stateswomen of the kingdom for such a time as this. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again soon.